We spoke about in the sort of part 1 to this video, assertiveness, and how something unrelated to healing our relationship with food actually has a very significant impact whether we are assertive or not, because assertiveness helps to improve our self-esteem, helps to build internal validation rather than seeking external validation, and it helps to get our needs met. Just 3 of many reasons why assertiveness is important when healing our relationship with food. So today I want to go through the steps as I see them for building more assertiveness, something which is not easily done and it is uncomfortable to build. I'm not going to lie to you about that. There's no way to circumvent it. It is uncomfortable, but we can do it in stages. And so the first thing that's really important is recognizing and internalizing the fact that our voice is important. It has value, not just to us, but to the people around us. If we've been living in this narrative of maybe people don't really care what we say, or our needs aren't as important as this person's, how we view ourselves matters less than how other people view us, it can be difficult to recognize that our voice has value. I'll use an example now in relation to eating. Let's say that you are having dinner with your sister and you notice how much she's eating and she stops when she still has, about a quarter of her food left on her plate. And so you decide to avoid perceived judgment or real judgment, that you will do the same so that you're not seen to be eating more than she is. But by not following your own needs in that moment and by being externally influenced by how much you should be eating, you leave the meal still quite hungry, and consequently by the time dinner rolls around you are really, really hungry, and it's harder now to make a balanced and nutritious meal decision, which otherwise would have come easily to you if you hadn't let yourself get too hungry. The second step, as I see it, is about identifying and exploring. Before we start to practice assertiveness, identifying situations in which you didn't behave assertively and reflecting on how could you have in those moments. Just using this as a learning tool. For instance, let's say I'm having a bad body image day and my partner has invited me to go out and have a meal with our friends that evening. And because I'm having a bad body image day, I decide that I'm going to wear something which is baggy and that I don't feel that confident in, but I feel like covers me up. I can use this as a learning event. How could I have behaved assertively in that situation? What would that have looked like? Now, what I'm fearing in that situation is judgment, essentially, from other people from wearing something that's maybe slightly more close-fitting. Perhaps I don't want to be seen that day by wearing something that's bolder in color other than black. Or perhaps I just don't want to make an effort for myself because my self-esteem is lower in that moment and self-care is harder. Well, I could reflect and say, if I were acting assertively, I would have acknowledged the negative body image thoughts and dismissed them and diffused them. We're going to be talking about that in my next video, by the way. Acknowledge and dismiss as unhelpful, acknowledge and dismiss as often as they come up. And at the same time say, no, I am going to wear something that is bolder in color to demonstrate to myself that doing that is not an action that is dependent on my body. And I could say, in those moments when I'm having a bad body image day or my self-esteem is lower, those are the moments when I will engage in extra self-care, not less. I'm going to have a bath, I'm going to write down some gratitudes, and I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time doing my hair or doing my nails or something which is fun to me. It's different for all of us. It could be both recognizing that when I am more stressed, I'm more prone to increased hunger and cravings, and my boss is asking me to take on an extra task even though my schedule is already full. And I say, yep, sure, no problem. And I reflect on how I could have been assertive in that situation and said in a very polite way, actually, no, I would love to help, but my schedule is already full. And by the way, these are very much not reflections in order to berate ourselves for not behaving assertively. Absolutely not. We're compassionate to the fact that being assertive is uncomfortable and difficult for us. And we're just using these almost to role play as practice before we start to practice in real life what behaving assertively would look like, which ultimately should make it easier when the moment comes to act, because we've familiarized ourselves with the process. Step 3 I would say, because I loved the idea of this. I thought it was really helpful. I wouldn't have considered it, but I read it recently. Write down what it is that you really want and need. Let's get really clear on that. Whether your wants are attainable or unattainable, realistic or not, let's just write them down. Let's be really honest about what they are. I've known this from first-hand experience. When I haven't acknowledged my real, deep, true wants and needs, they have shown up in, for instance, wanting to be thinner or wanting more cake. So as I've reflected over the past few years about my desire to drive for thinness, what it was that I actually wanted and needed was acceptance and belonging, and underneath that was a desire to have true, deep, meaningful friendships. But I wasn't acknowledging that. I wasn't even really fully aware of that, and it showed up as wanting to be thinner. Recently, very recently, I wasn't acknowledging the fact that I wanted more excitement and more joy in life, and I didn't know how to go about getting that, and it was showing up as wanting more food and wanting more cake and chocolate and things like that. I know this sounds abstract, but if you've been around on this channel now for a while, hopefully it doesn't seem as abstract to you anymore how this can materialize. So write it down. No one has to see your list, but let's just be really clear about what it is that we really want and need underneath all the surface level stuff. After all, our best chance at getting our wants and needs met is by first acknowledging them to ourselves. And step 4, the unavoidable step, is practice. But we can do this in more aggressive and more easygoing ways with ourselves. We can start really small. What is the smallest manageable first step that you can take to being more assertive? Who do you feel perhaps most comfortable doing it with? What things do you feel most comfortable doing it over? And we can use our learnings from step 2 to really help us here. Assertiveness, trust me, take it from someone that knows, is definitely something which gets less and less uncomfortable the more that you practice it. And there's no reason why you can't just start off really small. Yes, you'll be uncomfortable, but you don't have to be really, really uncomfortable. This can look like when your friend asks, hey, where do you want to eat tonight? Instead of saying, I don't know, I don't mind, give an honest answer. It doesn't mean you will eat there, it doesn't mean you have to eat there, but just express your opinion. It could show up like politely saying no when someone asks of a big favor of you, but you are in need for some recharging and some rest. It could be telling someone new that you're dating that when they show up continuously an hour late for dates, that it makes you feel like they don't value your time. It looks different for each of us. All of us feel more confident being assertive in some areas, but not in others. We might feel really assertive at work and comfortable doing that, but we might feel not very assertive when it comes to accepting our body and having body neutrality, regardless of real or perceived judgment from others, or eating in a way that works for us, you know, on our path, without being influenced by the opinions of others or diet culture. I would definitely recommend rehearsing. If you find being assertive uncomfortable and there's something that you want to be assertive about, you know, something specific, definitely rehearse it in your mind. Go over it, go over the conversation many times in your mind. Doing this makes it so much easier. It won't make it completely easy, but it will make it easier for the conversation to flow, or what you have to say flow easier and give you more confidence to be able to do it. Being assertive is not about always getting our way. It's definitely not. But it's about expressing our wants and our needs and our opinions in a very polite way, in a way that doesn't infringe on the rights or needs of other people. Doing this allows us to set boundaries. It allows us to feel like we're on our own team, which helps us feel whole. And as I mentioned before, it helps build our self-esteem and get our needs met. To express our emotions and to be able to communicate effectively, and all of these things are so fundamentally important when we are wanting to use food less, or eating or food restraint, in order to cope or manage our emotional worlds, or to have needs met, or to make us feel better about ourselves. Assertiveness is one of those skills that can really transform everything when it comes to our relationship with our food and with our bodies. So I hope you found that helpful. Feel free to leave below something which you are going to be assertive about, that perhaps you're a little bit nervous or uncomfortable about. If you'd like to share, I know it helps other people feel a little bit less alone in this. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourselves. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.